Uh, Aloha, everybody. Welcome to another dose of positivity. We're so excited you're here with us in the house. This is our 101 shows that we've been broadcasting live to you, bringing the level of positivity up mega notches. So by the time you leave this show, our intention is to give you a greater sense of well-being. And we're so thankful for all of you on live who are streaming in from Facebook, LinkedIn, or listening to the replay. Please send us some love. A reminder that we are live now, but we do check all our social media channels. If you have any questions, you want to contribute something to this conversation, we are so grateful for your input of helping to raise the vibration of the world. And my special guest today, Alana Cahoon and John Covach, cookies, are here in the house with me today. They are Alana and John are incredible musicians and healers, and Alana is an amazing author, and we've had her on the show before. Until you'll go ahead and pop that link to that past broadcast, and also the link where I had the great privilege of being on her incredible show, which really is an inspiring interview. She's a great interviewer, so we'll put those links in the chat if you want to know more about both of us. We'll also give you all the information, just a few little other pointers besides. If you want to come on stage, raise your hand, and we'll love to have you. If you want to save your comments or questions to the end, that's great too, because we are going to be diving into meditation, music, and mantras today. And before we do that, I wanted to read something, as always, from one of my books. And this is just a little treat to nourish your soul before we jump into our riveting conversation today. And if you stick around till about halftime, you'll get to hear my dog sing. And also some great kirtan, and we're going to be learning all about what kirtan is, because Alana and John are going to bless us with some live music. So please hang out and listen to all of that. And we have Tel in the house. We're so happy, back from China here, and she is managing all your chats. So we just say hi, everybody say hi, Tel. Hi, Tel. We love you, Tel. So this is just something I'm going to read real quick from Conscious Cures, one of the books that I wrote during the COVID crisis, or whatever you want to call it. We won't go down that rabbit hole right now, will we, Alan? No. So anyway, this is about what we're talking about, really, and really the way to bring your vibration up is one of the key things is reducing stress. And so even though we had some technical difficulties today and we started our live broadcast, sorry, everybody out there, 10, 15 minutes late, times passed before I started meditating and doing mantras and being more mindful, I would have been a stress monkey. But it's all about love and kindness and compassion now moving forward, because I choose to live another 30, 40 years, and stress is the number one killer. So here we go, from Conscious Cures, solutions to 21st pandemics. Reduce stress. Stress raises your blood pressure and your pulse, making you more receptive to illness. The American Medical Association has noted that stress is the primary cause of over 60% of all human illnesses and dis-ease. If anxiety and fear are pressing down on you, get the help you desire and you deserve so you can live without fear. Incorporating exercise, mindfulness, mantras, meditation, and breath awareness into your daily, that's key, daily rituals. There is much to do and extraordinary opportunities to embark upon. Now, I'd keep reading, but we got a little late. But you can put the 33 Conscious Cures in the chat. I have stuff about everything, not everything, but a lot that we're going to be having, discussing in our interview today. But without any further ado, I want to thank all of you again who are live here with us today and introduce you to our special guests. That's with a plural S. It's not every day we're so blessed to have two guests in the same room at the same time and who are going to be providing us with a kirtan today, which we're going to learn all about if you're not familiar. But Alana Cahoon is a guiding force in many ways, but she has created the self-discovery and conscious leadership program. She's also the founder of Grow to Be You LLC, where she designs programs for personal and professional transformation. Her approach involves tapping into each individual's authenticity to overcome barriers in their careers and their relationships and their living situations. No surprise that her and I are genuinely connected. With extensive training in holistic health, creativity, conscious leadership, Alana helps clients unlock their inherent wisdom for a balanced and an abundant life. Yes. Thank you for being here today. And John Covach is a distinguished music scholar. He has a degree from the University of Michigan and a Fulbright scholar experience in Vienna, Austria. He has taught at several prestigious institutions, and his students hold notable academic positions. John has published extensively on popular and 12-tone music and the philosophy and aesthetics of music. Very cool. He's the co-author of several books and the author of a textbook, What's the Sound?, which is an introduction to rock music. Sorry about that. John serves on editorial boards and as a general editor for the University of Michigan Press. He's a guitarist and he performs in a progressive rock band called the Land of Chocolate, which is, everybody knows I love chocolate. So I'm going to want to hear more about that. John, welcome to the show. Alana, welcome back to the show. And without just breaking away from the traditional trajectory of things, because the two of you are here, I would love for you just to give us a little bit of backdrop of how you came to be friends and what brought you together in this musical arena that we are going to have the privilege to experience today.
Donna, it's wonderful to be here again. And it's so wonderful to have John, a good friend of mine here, and an extraordinary musician, as you just described. So it was about, 15 years ago.
I think, yeah, 50, I guess it's probably been 15
About 15 years ago, I got a call from John and he invited me to sing the song. What is the Pink Floyd song?
Yeah, we were doing a performance of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon.
Ooh.
And I asked Alana to do Great Gig in the Sky, which is that fantastic track that ends side 1 of the album. And so she did a fantastic job. So our first contact was as professional rock musicians, really kind of doing, big shows and things like that. And then you pick it up from there.
So, and today we play kirtan and music for meditation and yoga. And that came about. I received another call from you during the global pandemic. I think we were wearing masks, and we talked about, it was your idea. And I said, our minds must have been linking, because I had been thinking the same thing, that it was time for me to shift my music from Broadway to rock to jazz to kirtan.
We went from one great gig in the sky to a different kind of great gig in the sky.
I love that. So you could say you had a spiritual awakening during COVID that really solidified where you're at today, and what a blessing and a gift that is, because rock and roll can be hard, not necessarily on the soul, but it can certainly help you grow old if you're doing it too intense, right? I'm a poet. Wow, that's so cool. So Alana, your background too, tell us a little bit about your background, what you did on Broadway and with the musical world with that.
Yeah, so my journey began as a 2-year-old. I woke up one morning and my family decided to go on vacation without me and leave me with a babysitter. They went to the World's Fair in New York City, and talk about mindset. I made up my mind. I know I did at that moment that someday I was going to go to New York by myself without them. And I did. I did, you know, with $1 and a dream, which was looked like $1,000 and a degree in theater. And yeah, I pounded the pavement and I had a really great time, a very challenging time. And did off Broadway, sang on lots of clubs, performed on many stages, worked in lots of offices, and waited on lots of tables. All of the above. Yeah. So, but during that time, I really talk about a spiritual awakening. I became a member of the holistic learning center called the Open Center. It was in Soho at the time, and all the, you know, just like how Omega and Kripalu is here on the East Coast, um, all the spiritual leaders were flocking there and teaching us about meditation, mindfulness, energy work, acupuncture, and clean eating. So yeah, that along with all of the arts, it's always been part of my life.
Beautiful. Well, I have a question too. You know, since this show, I only invite guests who put social and environmental justice at the forefront of their endeavors, and that's why I've had you back. You know, I love your book. I meant to grab it. It's, but I don't want to run up and go get it right now. You're welcome to show your book because it's a great book.
Okay.
And I just you know, there's a lot of rock and roll stars and a lot of rock and roll songs, especially from our generations. You know, Imagine by John Lennon comes to mind first thing. Who have basically almost single-handedly changed the vibration of the world through a song and brought social and environmental justice. Tin Soldiers and Nixon coming, we're finally on our own. Crosby, Stills, well, Neil Young, right? So music has the power to change the world for the better. And we've had several musicians on who are doing that. And I found that kirtan in specifically, and I really would like both of you to chime in. And you guys just hold on to your seats because in about 15 minutes, they're going to do a mini kirtan with us. But I'd really like to talk about this and you really dive into the whole meaning of mantra, kirtan, and why we don't have to be a great singer, right, to appreciate it. Um, so yeah, so just talk about kirtan, talk about mantras, talk about how this music that originated in India has the test of time of over 5,000 years, transforming people's lives and keeping people impoverished who are in poverty to still be high on life. So, love to hear anything you want to share.
John?
Well, I'm hesitant to go into my music professor mode here, so cut me off at any time if I'm sounding too much like I'm lecturing the class. But you know, the kirtan movement really arises out of our generation in many ways. You know, the Beatles generation, the Sgt. Pepper generation. George Harrison played a big role in bringing, and he wasn't the only one. Ravi Shankar and a number of other people were bringing Indian music to the West, but you know, when you're a member of the Beatles and you put your gurus on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, it has a way of getting people's attention. And so a lot of us, along, you know, led by people like Ram Dass and others, were sort of turning toward the East. And that was probably something that had more to do with meditation and spirituality. And while there was music along with it, after all, Krishna Das was the kind of musician of the Ram Dass sort of movement. It didn't really start to catch on until postural yoga started to get really big into the 1990s. And much of this music ended up being perfect music to be playing in the studio while people were doing yoga postures. There's a fantastic documentary called Mantra Sound into Silence, I think it's called, which sort of documents this whole movement. And so many of us who do kirtan are really sort of riding the crest of the wave of the rise of postural yoga. And so in many ways, what we're doing, while it harkens back, you know, centuries, millennia to the mantras, the Sanskrit, the Vedas, things like that, is really something historically that has arisen really in the second half of the 20th century to the beginning of the 21st century, that has roots that go back maybe as early as the 19th century in a direct way, but in a rather more historical way, really back to the Rig Veda, 1500 BC. So, people like Krishna Das and Jayu Tal, and more recently Nina Rao, and many people like that, they were really the ones who brought this whole kirtan thing into what it is these days.
Wow, that is so cool. I didn't know that. You can keep your teaching hat on because, most people, and I've been to kirtans, done them. I love them. Hard to find people who are engaged in really doing that. Like, it's not like in the mainstream yet, but Ayurveda is certainly starting to become more popularized, which is what I'm very into. That's my main healing modality. It's really starting to come into its own, and kirtan is a big part of that too. So that's so interesting. Yeah, when you think about George Harrison and him going, those those were the days, my friend. And that was really, really awesome. So the more history and enlightenment you can bring, the better. So as far as like mantras and how mantras became, this musical medicine, let's talk about mantras as musical medicine and what they are, and frankly, what do they mean? Like let's, maybe you could chant a few of them and tell us what they mean, and engage and invite us to join you.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Tara's mantra. So there's a mantra that's Om Tari Tutari Tu Re Swaha. And Krishna Das, who, by the way, was the original lead singer of Blue Oyster Cult. Some of us remember that band. He is the rock star of kirtan and meditation music.
He's the Elvis of kirtan.
Yeah. I met him once. Well, I've seen him a few times over at Kripalu. So we're in New York State, Rochester, New York, and Kripalu and Omega are the two centers for yoga, health, and wellness retreat centers. So I often go there, and he was wearing sunglasses to lunch. It was so great. It was so great, right? But it was so amazing because he's so passionate. And so his story is that he was one of the early people who, took a journey to India, just as you had your remarkable journey as a young woman that I loved reading about in your book, Donna. He was one of the, Westerners from America who went off to India back in the 60s, I think.
Late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, and entered an ashram, and he started the mantras and the singing, and the rest is history. He is the king of the mountain here.
Yeah, but getting back to what I was saying, I mean, he went to the ashram of Neem Karoli Baba in the foothills of the Himalayas, just above Raniket, or just below Raniket, and did that. And then when Neem Karoli Baba left the body, Krishna Das was back in the States, and he kind of went into a tailspin for 20 years where he didn't really do any kirtan. And it wasn't until the 90s started to roll around that he started to get out and be singing the kirtan. So there isn't really there's a direct connection between what was happening in the late 60s and the early 70s, but it's almost like there's a kind of a dormant period there until we get into the 90s. And then of course he's it'd be hard to argue that he's not the one who led into what we Americans consider to be kirtan music. I mean,
And just again, he is, say his name again, Ram Das.
Krishna Das.
Krishna Das, right.
People don't know that music. It's streaming on all the platforms and on YouTube. It's just fantastic stuff.
No, I thought that's what you said, and then I thought, did she say Ram Das? No, Krishna Das. I mean, he's still with us, and he's still doing it. He's rocking it out on Insight Timer. Put the link for Insight Timer and some of these links that they're talking about. I definitely want people to. This is great stuff, you guys. This is like yummy, delicious cookie stuff right here. I'm devouring it. Krishna Das is awesome. I mean, so you got to meet him. Have you played with him?
No, I haven't played with him
yet.
Yet.
Yeah, we're going to have to tag him on this interview, aren't we? We're
Okay.
going to have to invite him onto the show with you guys as his backup singers. Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah,
But I mentioned Ram Dass because Krishna Das was the music guy. When Ram Dass would go do his talks, Krishna Das would then sing, right? So
I
he
got
was much younger than Ram Dass, right? But Ram Dass was also a devotee of the same guru. So
so
that's
you could say Ram Dass was the rabbi and Krishna Das was the cantor in the temple.
why not?
I
I
love
mean,
it.
so and I always listened to the cantor like when I was forced to go to temple when I was a kid, and the rabbi just would bore me. It was too technical, too much Sanskrit in there. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Really, really appreciate that. So, what is the word? What is the definition of mantra? And give us an example. Like maybe you could chant a couple of mantras and tell us what they mean. Like a lot of people know Om
Right.
or Shanti, 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 peace, peace, peace. So, some simple mantras that we could all leave from today, because we know that mantra is a vibration that it can uplift the world if enough of us are singing it. So, dive into the meaning of mantras, please, and some of the most profound mantras.
Hmm. Well, the idea of mantra um, these days, you can think of it in a couple of different ways, but the historical origin has to do with this ancient text called the Rig Veda, which is a collection of 1,028 essentially poems. Some of the lines of those poems were extracted and used in ritual sacrificial rites during the Vedic period. And so the priests would intone these lines from these Vedic poems again and again repeatedly, um, as we do, 108 times, that kind of thing, as part of these ritual ceremonies. And those are sort of the original mantras coming from the Rig Veda. And sometimes they would be sung. There's a whole Veda called the Sama Veda, which is nothing but musical settings of verses or mantras. But then, down through the years, some of the mantras that we do are in Sanskrit. We usually figure that most of them are going to be, but they don't all really come from the Rig Veda. Anything that you've got that involves Sita Ram, that comes from the Ramayana, which is an entirely different text, of course, from the Rig Veda. Radhe Shyam, or anything that involves Radhe Krishna, that's really probably more coming from the Puranas or from the Bhagavad Gita. And then a lot of mantras are done not in Sanskrit, but in regional languages, because Sanskrit was the language of the very high-born, the Brahmins who had education and could read and could study these texts. But everybody else didn't have any Sanskrit. And so they began to develop a certain kind of a tradition in their own languages. And so we have Buddhist mantras that are in Pali, for example, and other kinds of traditions. And so a mantra really is just a kind of a verbal formulation that can often carry a certain kind of vibration with it. But in most cases, mantras, even though the words themselves have meaning, probably ultimately their importance lies beyond the specific meaning of the mantra, literally. If you say something over and over and over again, it stops signifying as language and starts to become something else. And it's that something else that we're all reaching for, that something beyond rational, linear thought into something that catapults us into a different kind of way of thinking, a different kind of way of being. And so the mantra is a kind of an instrument of the mind, a way of taking the mind to someplace outside of our normal everyday kind of rational thinking.
Isn't that something? That's so beautiful. It reminds me, it takes me right back to what you were talking about, raising our vibrations, right? So that as we repeat this, whether it's Shanti, Shanti, Om, Shanti, Om, Shanti, Om, Shanti, Om, Shanti, Om, it's less about the universal sound of peace and more of simply raising the vibrations. Although that one's pretty powerful. I mean, raising the vibration of peace and universal peace, that's pretty cool. But in the example I gave you, Om Tari Tutari Ture Swaha, that's all really a sacred text to the goddess mother, sacred text to the goddess mothers, and come, take away the suffering of the world. So as you repeat it, you're making it true. It's manifesting, right? You're shifting your own thought patterns with the vibration of a sacred text. I think personally that's the beauty of it. And then going even more modern or Western, I teach my clients to create their own unique mantras, which are more like positive affirmations, which were popular back in the New Age time. But just as powerful, right? I start every day with an intention that becomes my unique mantra. Today is a great day. I feel wonderful. I see beauty all around me. I pause and I breathe.
But however we use them, we're always trying to use the mantra to get us out of this the everyday habits of thought. I mean, meditation is this way, kirtan performances are this way. What we're trying to do is to get out of this thing that's holding us. It's keeping us, it's limiting us, And so the mantra is a kind of a vehicle. It's an instrument that allows us, that grants us a certain amount of freedom, that gives us a means to get to something else. And for different people, that something else is going to be different kinds of things. Many different people in this world striving for many, many different kinds of things. But somehow it's a way. It's like a key that unlocks the door out of the confining space of our everyday worries and cares. And just like you were talking about at the beginning, the stress and all the rest of it. A mantra is. Wouldn't say it's exactly a magic bullet or a magic pill or something, but it's a way of trying to get us out of all of that into something else.
I love everything you're saying, and it's it is a magic bullet for me. I'm just going to say, most people know I was sick last year, and it's the mantras and the breath work that have created this vibration when I'm singing it. And one of our guests on the show here today, Alan, he said, just the vibration in itself, it has this physiological and a spiritual effect on us, and emotional logical. It's logical because it is science too. And our last guest, until you can put Ivy Ray's link in here, she was talking about, the authenticity of, what is real, and what's real is scientifically, they have figured out that these megahertz or this vibrations on these certain frequencies can actually heal us. There's scientific proof that mantras and breath work can heal us. I'm not just like saying that. It may not heal everyone, but it heals people who believe that it is going to work. And it does. It worked for me.
That's
and I just, that's why you guys are here. So look, one thing though, this is so cool, this instrument of the mind. I love that. I love that phrase. um you know Sometimes when I'm singing Neil Young, or I'm singing Bob Dylan or Joni Mitchell, I almost go into that same mantra frequency, but there is still something different. There's this like line, and I'd love for you to like differentiate. Like, why is it when we're rocking out or we're singing, the made peace on earth, and when we're singing these things that bring emotion and tears to our eyes, the difference, the frequency, this different vibration that the mantra brings, and how incorporating the breath work in that takes us to that otherworldly place that you were just talking about so beautifully.
Sure. I missed it as a question.
Oh.
Go for it.
Well, I mean, so you're wondering, when all of us listen to music, that I think what younger listeners maybe don't understand about some of us that are older is that when you've had songs in your mind, for 50 years, when you're thinking about them, all of a sudden there's a different kind of thing that happens than what happened when we were like 15 listening to some of this music. And it has this ability to transport us. Maybe it transports us in some ways back to who we were at that time, or the attitudes that we had at that time, or like Bob Seger used to say, I wish I didn't know now what I didn't know then, this idea of naivete that goes with it. But still, those song lyrics are tied to particular social situations and particular sort of verbal cues and things like that, that they have so much meaning for us because they are tied to those things. A mantra really isn't, especially if when you let go of the meaning and just imagine that all mantras really just kind of say, yay, God, you know, you let go of all of that association and the kind of thinking that goes along with all that association. And that's what I mean, the key, the magic bullet, the thing that frees the mind from those associations so that it can experience something different. It's always been there. It was always behind those associations. But somehow you were able to quiet them or defeat them in some way. And now just really sort of savor that other sort of state of mind. And maybe that's what you're experiencing.
I think that's it. I think you answered it beautifully. And last week, Ivy Ray had she's a coach too. She's you got to listen to her interview. It was really great. But she did a thing where she starts all of her clients, and usually it's a pencil, but she makes them sit there for 5 minutes, and it's like a mantra, because a lot of people at first aren't open to receiving Sanskrit, right? But what is what is. And she says to them, you just sit there for 5 minutes every single day, because it's a practice, and mantra and breathing is. She says, I have a pencil in my hand. And you just stare at it, because it is. I have a pencil in my hand. And it actually becomes like this, you go into like this trance. It's something just simple, like you just described it so beautifully. Like when you're listening to these lyrics, even though you're going somewhere else with that time period in the music. But when you just have a pencil in your hand, or you're just shanti, shanti, peace, shanti, shanti, peace, it's a whole different thing. So I would be so grateful, before we go on, if, because I'd like you to break up the interview a little bit, and just bring us a little bit more present, and take one of your beautiful duets together, and bless us with some of your music right now. Is that okay?
That.
Where do you want to start?
Well,
Gayatri?
I wasn't planning on that one, but
Okay.
we could. Yeah,
Little bit.
it's
Like,
beautiful.
oh no, which
I just think Durga is
Okay.
fun, and people might enjoy it. And
okay.
Before you do that, can I ask you to just answer one question? Because I want people to feel comfortable, even if you guys are all on mute. That's great. But just to free people from that, like, because it would be really good if people could close your eyes and get into this with us, because I'm going to get in it with you guys. Like, why is it not important to sing, and why is to know how to sing, and why is it not so important that you know what the words mean? But I think it would be really helpful for you to tell us the Sanskrit or whatever language, so we can think about that. Can you just answer that for everybody out there who's a little intimidated right now, maybe?
so this song is called Durga, and Durga is the mother goddess in the tradition. I want to say in Hindu Indian tradition, and so it's Durga, 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 Jai Jai Ma, which is kind of like Alleluia.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that I'm not sure what Jagatambai means. Do you know what that means?
Well, I mean, when it comes down to it, what this all is, this is basically a hymn of praise. So no matter how you translate the different words here, they're all going to come down to, whatever that thing is that's outside of myself, that's bigger than me, you're awesome.
So good.
It's true. Yeah.
And so you can focus it on Krishna, you can focus it on Ram, you can focus it on the sun, on the sun, Surya, or something, or in this case on Durga.
Or
But
Mother Mary.
what you're buying into when you sing along with this is that thing that's bigger than me. That's terrific.
I love it. Hallelujah. Let's
Yeah,
hear
and
it.
it's very meditative, very meditative. That's the idea of repetition, is it is very meditative. And just one last thing.
Mm.
The idea of this is it's community, so it's we're singing, and whoever is listening, join in. Whatever it sounds like to you, just join in and sing and allow that vibration to reverberate in your body. And that does create healing, not just of your physical body, but your spiritual, mental, and emotional body too.
Right. So the way we'll do this is, and the way we do it in performances, Alana will sing the main line, and then we'll repeat that line and I'll sing it. And for those who are singing at home, muted and all that, we invite you to sing along with me as part of the response. So she'll do the call and I'll do the response. And, even if you can't figure out exactly what it is we're saying here, just kind of let it fly, because this is like singing in church. There's no such thing as bad singing. There's the only thing that can be bad about your singing is that if you're self-conscious and holding back. The best thing to do is just let it rip.
Oh, God, I wish I was there taking your classes. We're going to have you back on the show. So we're doing the call and response format right now.
I'm the response person. So sing with me. She'll give us the line, and then I'll repeat it, and I'll sing it, but you'll be singing with me at home.
I'm going on mute. You guys take it away.
Right.
We can sort of skip most of this introduction. We all sing together. Now that's a short version. Usually we started quiet, and the way these things always go is, just to speak from a performer's perspective, you're trying to whip people up into a fury, and so you start quiet, and then by the time we get to the end of it, we're going. If you bring people with you all the way, that really does sort of rise the spirits and allows people to sort of just let go and just get into what's going on in the room and have a fun time with it.
Can't hear you.
Oh, you're muted.
I said that was so good. It's so beautiful. And I want to say the sound is didn't for me, and my technical assistant saying it you kind of froze and we couldn't it didn't but I mean, I feel you, and I can't wait till we can have this back again, when we have a better, the sound is better, because this is like, I've been looking forward to this for so long. And I know you do have some music recorded. Where can do we have that link tail of their music to put in here? Because their voices are like superior.
Well,
We want
I've got a playlist on my YouTube channel that I can send along to you, and that'll get one of our most recent performances. You can see.
that would be so spectacular. And I trust me, you guys, I think that you performing and doing this somehow, if you can get the technical and really good, you would help so many people by offering live kirtans. And I know some people who have, like on Insight Timer, sometime I'll go on there and I'll just, I'm really into the mantra world. So, but anyway, I want to just really, kind of end the show, because we don't have that much more time, because we started kind of late. But um, before we go into some final questions that I think will really help people embrace this beautiful modality of healing, and I want you guys to be thinking about this after I announce a couple things. I really, it's the whole idea of breath and mindfulness. To me, it's one and the same. Like with the mantras, I think it's the breathing. It's almost like the hyperventilating or something of the breath that makes this modality of healing so powerful for me. So I'd like you to be thinking about that. But I just wanted everybody to know real quick, this 101 show will be the last show for a few weeks. I'm off next week to California for a family reunion. Until you'll put our next guest, I'm not sure who it is. I think it's Doreen. She's going to be talking about sustainability issues and our relationship to social and environmental justice, and how we can be more proactive in our own communities. I'm pretty sure that's Doreen who's coming on. And but those are really the only thing. And also, I wanted to wish everybody a happy solstice. Happens to be the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, and I'm sure there's plenty of mantras and chanting about the longest day, the summer days. Yeah, so happy solstice. And how the word of Veda, you had mentioned that earlier, means life. Ayurveda is the science of life. So I love that you mentioned that in your teachings around this ancient modality. Both of you, John and Alana, are so appreciative. And I'd like you to just spend a few minutes, as long as you want, really talking about this relationship of the health benefits, the physiological and mental we touched upon, but in regards to breath and circulation and stimulating the neurons in our brains. If you could dive into that, that would be really appreciated.
I've been teaching sound healing on and off for years. I'm a trained singer. And so really, in breath work, all singers practice breath work every time we sing, every time we do our warm-ups. And it's really breathing deeply and focusing on the breath, which we forget to do in our busy daily lives. Anxiety is often caused by shallow breathing, or if you are breathing shallow, you may be more anxious. So fill those lungs up, fill your diaphragm, which is just below the lungs, and really expand your rib cage and breathe in deeply and exhale fully. So that's an easy technique to just calm down and to be in the present moment. Do that for 30 seconds and you'll feel better. I'm teaching a class right now called Harmonic Yoga. And I bring my singing bowls. So we do some of the sound healing with the singing bowls, which John and I sometimes use in our performances. And then I also work with students and clients in opening up each chakra So we know we've got the 7 main chakras from our root chakra up to our crown chakra. And there are different syllables or mantras for each.
Bija mantras.
Bija mantra.
Seed mantras. They're called bija
Seed.
mantras.
Okay, yeah, seed
Bam,
mantras.
bam, sound all that stuff.
Lam bam. Oh yeah, been doing that since the 80s. Have you been doing that since the 80s too?
Not so much.
No.
What's the difference? Seed mantra, Vishnu. What do you mean?
It's it's a seed syllable. It's a syllable. So it's LAM. Lam bam ram yam.
They make no claim to having meaning. They're simply just sort of resonant syllables that are used in the tradition.
Vibrational.
Yeah. And so as you move, and maybe you did this in your healing experience, Donna, but as you move up through the 7 chakras with each seed syllable, and what I teach is really holding the M, the vibration of the hum. So it's yum. And the more you engage in that humming, that vibration moves through your entire body. And that's what opens up the blocks of energy that are all over and all throughout our bodies.
Yeah.
And my tradition is Kriya Yoga. I trained in that and teach. And this is meditation more in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras tradition of trying to find the ultimate point of stillness. If you can stop the thoughts, not become brain dead, but just sort of stop the thoughts. And so the basic idea there is that the breath and the thoughts are connected. And if you can slow the breath, you can slow the thoughts. And this is a big part of Zen meditation as well. And so the idea of doing the pranayama or the breathing is ultimately to not only find a longer breath, so you breathe all the way from the diaphragm below through the lungs and then really up, really into your shoulders, it feels like, or even into your neck, to have a big long breath, but also to have a breath that ends up taking a duration of time. So you may be able to count to 12 or 15 on the way in, and then maybe a little bit longer on the way out. You don't force it, but if you can get that to happen naturally, the mind will calm along with the breath. If you just tell the mind, hey, stop, settle down, it won't listen to you. It's like a dog, it won't do it, but you can sort of talk it into it slowly with this breath. And that's the whole idea, is to get things calmed down to where you can get all of that interference and noise that comes with the everyday chatter to just sort of go away for a minute and just see what's there when that happens. And most people who get to that point find something that's really pretty awesome that's there. Although for different people, it can be different things. So for me, the health benefit of that has got to be obvious. If you can get to a point where you're absolutely still, your blood pressure is lower, your heart rate is lower, your mind is clearer. How can that be a bad thing? I mean, people exercise for 20 or 30 minutes. You should try doing this meditation for 20 or 30 minutes. That could be pretty good for your health too. And so what happens is that the more times, it's like a paperclip, the more times you bend it in that direction towards stillness, the more often it'll go back toward that point of stillness as a natural state. So that rather than being as agitated once you're out of meditation as you were, when you come out of meditation over a period of time, you'll be less agitated to a point where you become much more sort of mellow and on an even keel almost all the time. It's hard to get something to upset you because you sort of live in that, because you've taught your brain, you've taught your mind how to embrace that, how to find that place, and it's there for you.
Instrument of the mind.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I just love that. I really I just have one more question. I know I said, but this is so wonderful. I haven't had anybody on the show yet who could articulate the value of meditation and mantra like this ever. And I'm diving deeper into it every day. Like you say, it's a practice. And I find, though, and anybody else who's listening to this, I'm sure a lot of people have in the past been maybe even turned off to meditation, because they have a monkey mind, right? They can't just quiet their mind. But when I found mantra meditation, it changed everything for me. And, let me know if I'm wrong here, but what happened to me is like, I'm so agitated, A-type, all over the board. When I do the mantras, like for like 5-10 minutes, and I'm really in my zone, I almost beg at that point to be like completely still and quiet. And then I find that, oh my gosh, I think I'm meditating now. It took me to get to 10 minutes of mantra, which I was meditating anyway, right? Because you are meditating when you're doing mantra, but you get to this place that you're talking about. Am I right? Help me out here.
So I'll just say two quick things and let Alana take it. The first is that the thing about the mantra is, you said monkey mind, and most people in the West can't really relate to monkeys because they don't have, you go to India, there's monkeys all over the place, and monkeys can be mean in India. They're just so cute sometimes. But anyway, so what I will tell my students is, it's like a puppy mind. Your mind is like a little puppy, and it's like always want to do. So what do you do to get the puppy to settle down? You give it something to chew on. And if you give it something to chew on, it'll sit there quietly for a little period of time, sort of chewing on that thing. So the mantra is that thing that the mind is chewing on. And by giving it something to do, it's not the thoughts all jumping around all over. That's what sort of induces the stillness. And my advice to people doing mantra meditation is, it's great to repeat the mantra. You're repeating it maybe internally, quiet, inside your head without saying it outside. But as you get deeper and deeper into the meditation, imagine not so much that you're saying the mantra, but that you're hearing it. That detachment that comes from pulling away from being the agent of producing the mantra to being the witness of the mantra itself. So it isn't so much like you're saying the mantra as much as the mantra is happening inside of you. That'll lead to, I think, even more stillness and even more sort of depth of meditation.
Beautiful.
That is beautiful. Yeah. That is beautiful, and I love the puppy. I'm so going to use that.
Well,
now.
you have one. You have one downstairs. That dog has got a whole basket full of toys. Why? Because it won't chew on the sofa. Right?
That's great. My only comment is, there's no wrong way. Meditation is really, it's about quieting the mind in whichever way you can. I suggested to someone last night to gaze into the sky, to gaze at the trees, because they're a visual person and that resonates with them. For me, I can do that too. Sound, I love sound. But I love, eventually it's something to focus. It's an area of focus, and eventually you drop that focus, and you be. It's being. It's a state of being. And you will, as you said, in just 10 minutes, you're already in a calmer, more peaceful, more desirable place of being.
Yeah, so meditation is getting to that place from stillness. Bhakti, or what we're doing with kirtan, getting people all worked up to get outside of themselves. That's a different way of getting to that place. Karma yoga would be good works. So you mentioned before, social justice and environmental issues. People can find their sweet spot, their place outside of themselves in work that they do for the good of others and not necessarily for their own particular good. So there are all kinds of ways that one can, methods, instruments, that we can use to get to this thing outside of ourselves. And meditation is just one of those. And even inside of meditation, there's all kinds of different techniques to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I think I could go on forever with this conversation, but I would like to have Alana, when your new book comes out, back on. But John, just to invite you to come back and just do a class on meditation with us. Would you be willing to do that? Because
Oh,
I
I would
think,
love to do that.
yes, that would be fantastic. And let's get the sound good, because we can maybe in 6 months from now let's do an online kirtan with all of us, because and we can really let people know it's going to happen, and do it in the middle of winter when people are sitting around cold by the fire instead of out.
Let's do it on the winter solstice.
Oh,
Winter solstice, put that down. Okay, and you'll get your sound down, and we could do like a bed in, when John and Yoko had a Ram Dass and everybody over, what's his name, I don't know, the writer, I'm having a brain fart, Allen Ginsberg, and all the people over, right? And they're having a kirtan on John Lennon's bed on overlooking over Central Park. All we are saying is give peace a chance. And with that, you guys use that maybe as your mantra. It doesn't have to be Sanskrit. Like Alana said earlier, she helps her clients get into the space by just doing some kind of their own mantra, their own way of getting inside of themselves, using something that is relatable to them. So, and we're going to have all the links, how you can get a hold of Alana and John in here. And I just thank you guys so much. And your doggy too for being, and we have some people just coming on now. They're coming on. You guys are going to, Libby and Eric, and Maureen, you're going to have to listen to the replay. This was a fabulous show. Thank you for coming on late though. We have some fantastic links though, especially for you guys just coming in, really good links in the chat. So you want to download those links. And again, I'm just reminding everybody that I'm off for the next few weeks, enjoying the summer like everybody else. And sending you all so much love, and let your mantra or your whatever it is be, let's give peace a chance. All right. All we are saying is give peace a chance. And so big love to you all, and aloha.